Hi. Today I just wanted to talk about some of my ideas based on my personal life experience. And it is entitled Life, Death, and Everything. So, uh, I would say the first thing I'd like to say is don't be like me. My early life was filled with so much ultra violence that it really damaged my perception of life. And so when you see everything as a threat, that really hinders your ability to enjoy being alive. And so I would say if you haven't been exposed to a bunch of ultraviolence and traumatic experiences, the way I see everything and every person for the most part is that they are dangerous. And that's my own mental illness. And so I would say, don't be like me. Don't do that, because it set me on from a very young age. And as a 6-year-old kid, being in a cult that the Russians were coming and I was going to have to be fighting a battle my whole life. And when you think about something and fixate on it and focus on it, you tend to attract that into your life. So if you're riding a motorcycle and you see a pothole and you look at the pothole, that's what you're going to hit with your bike, because wherever your eyes are looking on your motorcycle, wherever your head is oriented, that's the direction and the trajectory of the path that you're going to take. And so you have to do something counterintuitive and look beyond the threats that you see. And there are so many threats in the world, if you are somebody who is aware of them, that it becomes completely exhausting. And so with someone with, say, post-traumatic stress disorder, we could think about it as a problem with anxiety after a shock. You expose yourself to so many shocks, or you've been exposed to so many different shocking experiences that are life and death, that sometimes they describe it as type 3 diabetes. Your brain uses glucose to think, and then you're constantly burning up that glucose with your hypervigilance, so that then you are in a mental fog, and then you're not in any kind of state to actually protect yourself if something was going to happen. So it's a self-defeating situation that's really hard to get outside of. So if you weren't born in a cult and haven't been exposed to the ugly underbelly of reality, then just don't watch this and go back and just enjoy life as much as you can, because it's so much better to be able to do that than to see the world through my particular eyes. That being said, if you do see the world through that lens of danger and trauma and violence, then there's some things I would say, and that's for everybody else who's going to be watching this. So right now in current events, a lot of people are talking about the end of the world, blah, blah, blah. Well, I was born into that in the late 70s, and the world is still here. There's never been an end to the world yet, and I don't foresee that actually happening anytime soon, despite what any politician or group of people tries to get you to believe. So it's a fun fantasy that society will collapse, because then it creates equality for everyone, instead of these people who have stockpiled power through generations of inherited wealth, and then working hard to ensure that everybody else in the United States especially will just be stuck as sort of a slave, as a bot, just living your life in this way where you're creating wealth for these people and corporations. But I digress. Don't be like me. That's the number one thing. If you are like me, then you have to accept that today is a good day to die. Because if you're going to ever be in a situation that's going to be life and death, you're only as good as you are in that moment. So people like to prepare to offset for anything that might possibly happen. So it's in our nature to try to be prepared and anticipate any possible outcome. So it's the problem with human nature is that we can't control outcomes, and it would be wonderful if we could. I think that if you're a politician, you know, and you have the full force of very, very wealthy contributors and the media, then you can manipulate outcomes. But none of us can really control outcomes. We can only control our actions. And it is like a turn-based role-playing game, life. I act, and then life reacts to whatever my actions are. And then that goes down to, for everything that we do, there's an equal and opposite thing that is happening. And so I would say the more that you focus and think about negative things, the more that you're sort of bringing those things into your life. So if you're somebody that lives in a dangerous environment in the inner city, we'd call that, say, a persistent traumatic stress environment. You can't get better mentally because you're always in a situation where you could be killed at any moment. So if you begin to relax and work on yourself and then not see everything as a threat, and then you go down to the McDonald's, which the inner city has liquor stores, churches, and McDonald's. And they're all pretty much closely located geographically to each other. You go down there, you might just get smoked for no particular reason. And that is the reality of somebody living and growing up in that environment. I mean, so many people in West Oakland and East Oakland that had never even been out of their own neighborhoods. So when you think about that in your life, whatever age you are, imagine never in your whole life leaving your neighborhood and seeing everybody around you either get killed or go to prison. And these guys that are slinging dope, they're making like $3 or $4 on an interaction. They would make so much more money if they just went and got a job at Starbucks as a barista and then worked their way up. But that isn't cool, right? And it's very hard to get out of that mentality and out of that situation if you are birthed in it, if you grow up in it, because you don't have any perspective on what the rest of the world could be. So if you're in that type of a situation, or you're going into an environment that's very dangerous, you just have to accept that, accept your death. It's already happened. When my uncle went to Vietnam, he told me that he just had to accept that he knew he was going to die, and that was it. And as soon as he let go of the thought and the fear of death, then he was able to do what he had to do to be able to help his fellow soldiers, because he was a combat medic with the Big Red One in a really nasty part of the war. And you just have to accept that, you know, today is a good day to die. Now, we train and we do as much as we can to try to fend off death. And there's so much in the economy that's focused on that, like staying alive, right? And it's looking good, staying young. The industry and the amount of money that's made from that is astronomically huge. So, youth is attractive and beautiful. Stay young. Unfortunately, and interestingly enough, like all of the stuff that I grew up worrying about and preparing for, that's not the stuff that caused me the most damage. My brother was killed, run off the road on his motorcycle, head on into a brick wall by somebody who had been our friend. So, and usually that's the case. It's not just a random stranger act of violence, but as a Caucasian male, you know, that's the case. So wherever you live, your socioeconomic status, that really impacts those things. So here I have these knives on the table, right? And somebody wanted to see knives and how I use them, right? So here is a knife, Mummer tactical steak knife. It's titanium. This is a badass knife. Here is also another knife, right? And depending on where you are, if you don't have something on you, whatever it possibly is, wherever you are, if you don't have this knife with you, then it doesn't apply if you're in a life and death situation. So here is an example of some knives that you may find around you. Not this, but a steak knife, right? Here is a steak knife that you might find at a restaurant, a fast food place, any kind of manufacturing. This is what took down the aircraft in 9/11, or what the hijackers at least had on them. And then up to purpose-built knives by people who are designing stuff for fighting, right? So looking at these different things, these are some examples of what you either might have on your person or what you might be able to get a hold of in an emergency. But if it's not on you, it's worthless. So either if you carry a knife, carry it all the time. And then, some people say that they don't want to carry a knife because they're afraid that they might hurt themselves. You're probably right. So just don't do that. And you don't need to watch this video. So the next thing I would say is learn to forget. If you want to learn how to do something, you have to do it by repetition. So what you want to do is take some movement, right? And everyone's body is different. So if you're 6'6", or you're 4'11", 350 pounds, or 110 pounds, it doesn't really matter, because a knife is a force multiplier. So basically what we're doing is saying, whatever your personal size is, you have to adjust your training that fits you, because it's not a one-size-fits-all sort of technique situation. And then take advantages of your strengths, whether it's reach or low center of gravity. But I posted a picture before of just the human body with all of the different blood vessels and arteries. And, we are so vulnerable as humans. Pretty much anywhere on the human body that somebody, if they reach out to try to grab you, you're going to be able to touch them with one of these in a manner where you can touch a main artery and cause them to bleed out rather quickly. So the most dangerous place to be when someone has one of these is very close. And if you are a tiny person and a big person comes in close to you and you're on the inside, that is the most scary place for them to be, because it's very easy for you to create a situation where you're going to have very low blood pressure, and that person's going to very quickly lose consciousness and bleed out. So it's important that you practice some technique, right? So if you're chopping vegetables, you chop vegetables 1,000 times, you get your technique properly trained, so it's your muscle memory. You want your body to know that memory of that motion. But then what you don't want to do is create patterns, because geometry, our visual perceptive ability to see something coming towards us, if you play football or golf, you learn this movement, a stroke, the way that you swing the club, your hip positioning, your feet positioning, all of these different things. If you see somebody and you're training with them in one specific type of thing, say a type of martial art, when you're training with somebody, the more training that you do in that way, the more comfortable you're becoming with that situation, which is very dangerous, because you're relaxing yourself in this way and opening yourself up to the psychological concept of training where it's a game. And in any instant, that lackadaisical mentality is not respecting the lethality of what's taking place. So training is very important. Training is very good. You learn to forget You learn the techniques so that you can forget with your mind and your muscle memory takes over. And then anything that you pick up is just an extension of your body. Because if I'm looking at you or you're looking at me or you're in a situation and you're watching somebody, if you're thinking with your mind instead of acting with your body, that's slower. And if you're learning some technique and practicing that technique, and I see somebody who's setting up, whether they're taking a fighting stance, basically that's slower. That is less effective. And that person is more likely to probably get killed. So we want to create a situation where there are no perceptible patterns. So if you're watching videos and doing all of these training things that you see online, or even training in a dojo or a gym or wherever the hell you're doing it, you're taking a class, you're submitting yourself to this person and putting them above you in your mind that they're the master and you're the student. Really, you're just trying to get the information from them so that you can apply it to yourself. So learn the technique, that's good. Do it 1,000 times every day for a month. And then get it to the point so you can do that without thinking about it. Because if you're thinking about it at the time, that's problematic. You don't want to be doing that. So learn to forget. Everything is bullshit. So you're only as good as you are in a specific moment of any specific given day. If you met me when I was 18 years old versus now, physically, I was so much more lethal at that point. Physically strong, fast, flexible, all of those different things. Now, I'm a completely different person. I don't have those same physical abilities and skills. I just have a lot more life experience. And I would say don't ever underestimate anyone. Man, woman, child, dog, whatever. If you're going to be engaging with someone, which I don't recommend, then you just have to, in that moment, be completely present and calm and open-minded and not thinking about anything. Just having an intention in your mind, which they talk about a lot in meditation, right? Like, I'm going to destroy this. That's a goal, right? Being goal-oriented. Like, I am going to remove this thing that's in front of me. And then having a calm, relaxed mind and a calm, relaxed body. And then you get into a situation where all of that muscle memory training that you've done can kick in. And then you gain time. So in the moment when somebody starts to aggress, it's almost like time slows down and you can see, like a baby, their movements and their intentions and what they're doing. And if they have also trained in something, they're going to be giving away what it is that they're trying to do or going to do. And so the thing that I would say, my personal experience, the dangerous things that you're going to be exposed to are multiple teenage guys mobbing you from different angles, and they're not going to be taking up fighting stances or anything like that. They're going to be circling you, trying to put your back to a wall. They're going to be trying to sucker punch you. They're not going to be looking at you. They're going to be looking away and then swinging with wild haymakers. Or you're not going to see the person that's actually going to be striking that attempted death blow, because there's going to be somebody who's making a lot of noise distracting you while the other person is moving in to actually make contact. So I would say avoid all of this stuff with everything that you have. Do not be in a situation, because if you are in a situation where you are having to use one of these to protect yourselves, you've already failed. Like, that is bad. And, see number 2, because today is a good day to die. You just have to accept that. But if there's nothing that you can do in those circumstances, you can use that to your advantage. So when someone is trying to ambush you or a group of people are trying to attack you, you actually have the ability to gain the leverage and the momentum in that, because you have the element of surprise and you're getting attacked by a group of people. They are not as desperate as you are. And also, they are thinking that the person next to them is going to step up and do something that they may or may not do. So when you explode with extreme ultra aggression and violence, and then you are very focused on your objective, which is to put all of them down, you have the element of surprise, and suddenly they are retreating because they never anticipated that level of aggression. And I've been in these situations a whole lot of times. So if that happens, it's very important that you just come out with super, super aggression. And you have the element of surprise, and then they're trying to get away from you, which is pretty freaking hilarious when it happens. And then again, everything is bullshit again. So all of the training and things that you've seen and thinking, it goes out the door because your mind can just shut down in a situation where you're being attacked. And so you have to train yourself not to shadow box at things if you're going to be somebody who's using an edged tool, but preparing mentally for pushing through and driving through things. So don't practice wrong, is basically what I'm saying. And don't train wrong. And don't practice and train to not destroy whatever's in front of you. Because when you get into that habit, you're setting yourself up. And there's a benefit physically to training your body to be able to have endurance. The amount of exhaustion your body's going to experience is going to hit you super hard, especially when that adrenaline dump hits and all of a sudden you're shaking, and whatever you might have trained for before in that circumstance and in that environment, your small motor functions, you might have trained in practice to make a precise pinpoint strike. And then in the moment, things are chaotic and crazy, and the geometry of the situation is completely different. And so you have to prepare for all of these different variables that it's impossible to prepare for. And then you just have to take things as they come because it's fluid. And again, we don't control outcomes. But if you're in that situation, have some techniques committed to memory, to muscle memory. Get the hell out of that situation if at all possible. But if you can't, then fight like hell and kill everybody around you that is presenting a threat. Kill them, hit them, stop them. Make sure they're all down and that they're not going to move or get up again. And get the hell out of there as soon as you can. The instant that you can, get away from that situation. And better yet, be aware so that you're not putting yourself into that situation. So these are just some of my thoughts based off of my personal experiences. These are all, by definition, knives, but not all knives are the same. So if you're in a situation and you're not prepared, here's some of the stuff that you might have access to, if you're lucky. And then maybe you carry a pocket knife, right? And that's on you. Well, carry your pocket knife all the time and spend enough time using it that you understand how a pocket knife works and the geometry of it and its reach, so that if you do have to use it, you're not fumbling around. It needs to be an extension of your body. And then You know, the more time you spend with something, making yourself comfortable with it, the better off that you're going to be. You're going to be stacking the odds in your favor should something bad happen. But again, avoid those horrible situations like the plague. Don't watch these videos. Go out and live your life and enjoy sunshine in all of your heartbeats. And I hope that you stay safe, and I hope that you're never, ever in a situation where you need to use a knife to protect yourself, because that's the worst day. So anyway, those are just some of my thoughts from my life experiences. I've had, unfortunately, to be in these circumstances myself, and it's not pleasant at all. And so, yeah, avoid them like the plague. But then, if you're ever in that situation, mentally and physically, you just have to be prepared to do whatever it takes. And, you know, we're not in control of life and death. And so we're all going to die someday. But if that's the situation, then don't allow fear to stop your ability to function in that situation. And then you rely on your training, you calm your mind, and you just take one thing at a time. So stay safe, stay alert, stay alive. Thank you.